Hello again, and welcome to another edition of Fansview Fridays. Fansview Fridays is our weekly stream here at the Wisteria Cottage, where we go through old convention reports by my good friend, the late Kevin Lillard. Today, we will be talking about Anime Central 2000. I started attending Anime Central in 2001. I know I had quite a bit of friends who have attended Anime Central 2000, so let's take a look back into history as we explore Anime Central 2000 through Fansview Fridays, courtesy of webarchive.org. A lot of his reports are no longer online, so by the graces of archiving, this is our way to visually represent what it was like to go through a Fansview convention report back in the day. All right, Anime Central took place May 12th through the 14th in Arlington Heights, Illinois, and we have Kunihiko Ikuhara and Roy Mizuno were at the third Chicagoland Anime Convention. All right, let's go through Friday. I have to apologize because my medication is making my voice really sore. All right, let's fix that. Let's kind of fix the image here. Give me 1 second. Experiencing some technical difficulties. Okay. Let's kind of fix things around here. All right, we are good. It took a long time to chase down customers on the convention's first day. Oh, wow, looks like we got 13 pages of cosplayers. Let's go check out all of these talented folks back in the day. And also just commentate on fashion choices back in the day, too. We have Ray Ayanami, Princess Fireball. Again, Final Fantasy VIII was the cream of the crop. It was the thing at the time. We got Galaxia. I actually remember these hallways because I actually did attend Anime Central when it was at this location. Okay, we have some Final Fantasy here. Pokemon. That's a giant Pikachu stuffy. Kenshin. Gothic Tomoyo with Elise Shalran. Ranma, and we have the goddess Belldandy. Oh wow, that's something you don't see every day. Angel Sanctuary. Looks like, I want to say that's Digimon, but I know we have some Digimon friends in the chat who could probably correct us on that. We have Mana from Malice Miser. I've always loved this dress from Mana. Back then, I didn't know this was from J-Rock Visual K, but I always liked this dress. And then we have the Rose Bride Anthe. Okay. Just kind of scrolling through here. Oh, we have Neil and what's her face from that one isekai with gender change. Maze of the Haze. It has a really funky theme song. Look it up if you're ever curious. Maze in the Haze. And the catchiest ending song was Don't Touch Junkie Boy. Okay, we got Lane covered in wires. We have Utena. Back then we didn't really have a lot of choices for pink wigs. I can attest to that. We had D-Lit. That's a really good D-Lit. We have, I want to say that's either Ranma or Tenchi, because that saber thing is kind of throwing me off a bit. Looks like we have Kaji. We have someone in a Korean outfit right here. Okay, hopefully we can get some more photos loading up. We have someone looking very festive here for Arlington Heights. Oh, we have Eternal Sailor Jupiter and Eternal Sailor Moon. It's just so surreal to see Eternal cosplays were a thing back in 2000, whereas I recently completed Eternal Mars not too long ago. But then again, I also made an Eternal Pluto like 10 years ago too. But it's just so surreal. Like, yeah, like Eternal was canonical back then, and people were all cosplaying the canonical versions of the Eternal versions of the Sailor Senshi. Okay, we've got some shampoo. It's Gendo. Final Fantasy VIII. We have Asuka. A lot of vendors and dealers halls would sometimes sell the Evangelion uniform. I actually used to own an Evangelion uniform. We have Cypher. We have Utena and Akio. I want to say that's my Fatal Fury version. I was about to say Fatal Furry. Okay, Saber Marionette. I want to say that's Toho, but that's probably not Toho, given the time period we're in. Aw, Noriko. Okay, just scrolling through here. I've seen that Battle Waitress outfit before, but the name is escaping my head. We have Sakura in the traditional Neko outfit. I am actually making the Neko outfit. Oh, we have Carol in a onesie. That's adorable. I should probably get my friend to be Carol in a onesie. Because I'm going to try and get one of my friends to, like, do onesie cosplays. Just so they can stay cozy and comfortable at a con. Like, we already decided on Genma, Jeff the Shark. Now I need to get them like, hey, do you want to be Carol? Okay, we have Aiko and we have Misel. Alright, so what else happened on Friday? Then there was a flood of guests at opening ceremonies. A third year for Anime Central meant a third home. In 2000, the convention moved from the Sheraton Arlington Park, a hotel which had been a Hilton a few months earlier before it was reflagged. Largest crowd of Friday morning was the group trying to register for the convention. Second largest was of people trying to get hotel rooms. Just before the opening ceremonies, The Sign and American Doujinshi appeared outside the convention hall, a production of Studio APK, Carl Horn, and Richard Anderson. Horn, Viz manga editor and one of the few people on Friday in a suit and tie, then hosted the opening ceremonies with familiar faces such as Viz video producer Toshi Yoshida. Then came Jay Torres, writer for the new Sidekicks comic from the equally new Fanboy Entertainment. Takeshi Miyazawa, artist for Sidekicks, was caught behind him in the picture. Star Blazers fans got their moment in the sun with former Star Blazers actor Amy Howard, who plans to get married a few days after Anime Weekend Atlanta in October. And former Star Blazers comic artist Bruce Lewis, already married, thank you. If you needed a computer network administrator, call this man. Actor Brett Weaver, Carrot Gloss, and Sorcerer Hunters, among other roles. And if you need a female voice, contact Megan Hollingshead or Lisa Ortiz. Both provide voices for the wildly popular Pokemon series. Tsukasa Kotobuki made another Anime Central appearance to talk to his Saber Marionette character designs. Assistant Daikin Yoko O tried to explain why he shaved off his beard and mustache so he didn't look like a terrorist. Here's the father of Delit, the elf, Ryo Mizuno, fan of role-playing games, was on hand to tell how he created the worlds of Record of Lodoss War game, novels, and anime. Here's a formidable creative trio. Kunihiko Ikuhara and Chio Saito are the people behind Revolutionary Girl Utena, anime and manga series. They're at Animazement in March. On the right is Tomoko Taniguchi, manga artist, who will have 2 titles published by 2 different American companies in 2000. The ceremonies ended with an unusual Cat Girl meets Pokemon opening animation, followed by the opening toast from Vice Chair James Alsop with Chair Ryan Gavigan. It was the start of a popular day for Hollingshead, who was in demand when people realized she was also the voice of Nurse Joy, in Pokemon. This fanboy hopes he has a future with Fanboy. For years, college sports teams have been taking insults and turning them into nicknames and mascots. C.B. Cebulski had the same idea when he left Central Park Media, where he had operated the company's comics lines, to set up his own publishing house. Since Cebulski had a reputation as being a big manga fan, his wife suggested calling the company Fanboy Entertainment. The joke stuck and became the company's name. Cebulski was surprised to learn that no one had registered Fanboy as a trademark with the US government, so he snapped up the name. Fanboy's latest projects are manga from Japan, and US Spellbound is a new title from Tomoko Taniguchi. Sidekicks will be written by Jay Torres and drawn by Takeshi Miyazawa. Cebulski plans to publish both titles first in the US, then export them to Japan. He is especially proud of being able to first publish Taniguchi's latest shoujo title in America before the series is published in Japan. Still, Cebulski admitted that it could be tough to convince comic special stores to carry the new material. Oh, I do remember Spellbound. I actually own like the first issue of it. It actually came out Anime Central 2002. Or was it ASIN 2000 when I forgot? It was a year that I was reading Ayashi no Ceres. Cebulski has a potentially valuable alliance with Kia Asamiya. He plans to publish prints, posters, and art books from Asamiya's recent series, including Nadeshiko, Silent Mobius, Dark Angels, and Steam Detectives. Fanboy is preparing a colorized version of Dark Angels, a Phoenix Resurrection series, to which Asamiya will be adding the coloring at Animazement. The artist called the color manga his challenge to the US comics industry. The Asamiya project was planned with the knowledge that Japanese art is often pirated in a wall scroll in the US. At Animazement, guest artists refuse to sign bootleg scrolls. We're trying to do artwork that hasn't been seen yet, said Cebulski, and we're doing a limited edition numbered prints so you know it's authentic. That means Asamiya art will be more expensive to produce and sell, he said. From Michigan to manga, the story of Tomoko Taniguchi. What do Jalen Rose, Bambi, and Tomoko Taniguchi have in common? Both Rose, the Indiana Pacers basketball player, and Taniguchi attended the University of Michigan. Taniguchi learned fluent English in Ann Arbor. The Walt Disney version of Bambi was one of Taniguchi's favorite drawing subjects when she was growing up, along with Jungle Emperor from Osamu Tezuka. Inspired by the art and anime series such as Space Cruiser Yamato and Gatchaman, Taniguchi decided she wanted to be an artist. Ironically, Taniguchi studied English at Ann Arbor to be ready for another career in case her artistic dreams didn't work out. Taniguchi gets some of her story ideas from movies, but most of her tales come from real life. She takes her experience and those of her friends and turns them into manga form, with one exception. In a country that seems perfect to prefer unhappy endings for its stories, Taniguchi likes happy endings. Japanese readers think real life is now easy. I know it, but I like happy stories, she said. Taniguchi's stories seem to come together quickly. She said she needs only 1 week to write a short story, then another week to draw it. Longer stories take more time, of course, and often she doesn't know how long a series will end after she starts it. Taniguchi's appearance at Anime Central put her on the same stage with Chio Saito, the character designer and manga artist of the Utena series, and Kunihiko Ikuhara, the man in charge of the animated Utena. I'm excited, she said, about being with the people who made her favorite anime. One thing that doesn't excite Taniguchi is a trend towards making stories about homosexual men for women to read in Japan. She does not create yaoi or junei stories. Junei, that's something I haven't heard. MLM, men love men, terms of fiction. What does Brett Weaver think of all those fans who don't like dubs? I'm not going to parrot somebody else, Brett Weaver said about his work in anime dubs, such as Carrot Glaze, Character, and Sorcerer Hunters. I've got to use my ability as an actor to bring out the character. That's Weaver's response to those who criticize dub actors for not sounding like the Japanese voices in anime. Weaver agrees that Japanese actor Akira Kamiya's observation that anime acting is overacting and not natural, something that may not come to American actors who have been trained for the last half century in the understated method style. You can't underplay Carrot. He's larger than life. Weaver said about his Sorcerer Hunter's role. Anime's art style influences Weaver's voice performance more than the Japanese voice tracks, he said. Good guys have to sound like heroic, and villains have to clearly sound like the bad guys, he said. Weaver's favorite principle of recording Booth's horror story comes from an 80 film session where he had laid down some voice tracks and figured he was finished, only to later learn that all the tracks had been lost somewhere in the morass of electronics in the studio. Weaver had to go back into the booth and record everything again. At least the producer was apologetic and paid him for an extra session, Weaver said. Weaver said he could have ended up working in Japan if he had taken Kamiya's suggestion. The veteran Japanese actor liked Weaver's voice and said if he learned Japanese, he could make a living dubbing English language roles in that country. Weaver chose to stay in the U.S. and concentrate on an acting career while supporting himself as a computer network administrator. Here's a look inside the mind of one of the creators of Revolutionary Girl Utena. Alright, what crazy stuff does Ikuhara have to say this time? By the way, I love that Mamoru jacket. Kunihiko Ikuhara, the co-creator of the Revolutionary Girl Utena series, continued his American tour with a trip to Anime Central, following his Animation appearance by 2 months. America's a big place. I want to see it all, he said about his visit to the Chicago area. Ikuhara said that the American anime conventions he had seen reminded him of similar Japanese events 2 decades ago, where fans and businesses got together. Nowadays, fans have their own conventions such as Comic Market, while businesses put on separate shows just to sell the product, he said. Ikuhara likes listening to what fans want from his series, but he chooses to take his own path when it's time for major creative decisions. That was the reason he wanted to move away from the commercially successful Sailor Moon series he directed to create Utena, where I wanted to express some of the things I couldn't express with Sailor Moon. Sailor Moon was a very commercial series driven by the business who wanted the original manga translated into an anime, Ikuhara said. He wanted to make something different. He admitted the complex plot of Utena doesn't have immediate commercial appeal of the Sailor Moon's high school comedies. There's another difference between Utena and Sailor Moon. While the Sailor Moon manga came before the anime, both forms of the Utena story were developed pretty much at the same time. Utena and Sailor Moon both come from the world of Japanese high school. Why are so many anime and manga series based on that world? Ikuhara said that the Japanese high school experience is an intense one because of the examination pressures. It's a very cultural thing. Unless you're gone to high school, you can understand. Japanese high school leaves a mark on you that remains longer than the American high school experience. American doujinshi expert examine the ultimate fan art movement. Okay, what does American doujinshi look like back then? The telephone directory for Arlington Heights, Illinois had 684 pages. The picture catalog for the August 1999 comic market has 1,300 pages. Each of those pages is packed with small introductions for the thousands of circles, groups of fans who create their own doujinshi and sell them at the biannual conventions in Tokyo. Imagine 4 times the attendance of a Chicago Bears game gathering at McCormick Place to buy fan comics. You get the idea of comic market size. Dan Kanemitsu has visited several comic markets. Sorry if I sound a little bit weird about saying his name. I recently heard an interview with him. I won't go too much into detail, but this guy's not good news. Dan Kanemitsu has visited several comic markets and has seen the intensity of fans, both who strive hard to celebrate their doujinshi and those who try to buy everything in sight. It goes far beyond American comic fan art, but could develop in the U.S. with groups such as Studio APK trying to create their own version. Part of the challenge facing those who would make American doujinshi is finding a printer. Kanemitsu noted that the U.S. doesn't have doujinshi printing industry found in Japan, but there are plenty of small industrial printers and instant print shops that can handle the work. Then there's the challenge of dodging any objectification from the companies that hold the copyrights to the original characters featured in doujinshi parodies. Only a few Japanese companies object to the use of their characters, since manga publishers recruit the best doujinshi artists and read comic market books to find these artists. However, Nintendo has been known to crack down on a handful of doujinshi creators, and American comic companies object to any case where books are using their characters are sold. Kanemitsu thinks this would-be American doujinshi creators can avoid those pitfalls. All they need is for the U.S. manga fans to be willing to support them by buying their books. Many professional manga artists, former Anime Central guest Kenichi Sonata among them, still make doujinshi. Why go through all that trouble when they already have a stressful deadline driven job? It's a form of entertainment, he said. If you're facing a deadline and doing the same material over and over again, sometimes it's fun to do a nonsensical parody. Lisa Ortiz can help talk about talk. Lisa Ortiz can help but talk about acting. Lisa Ortiz deliberately drove her mother crazy, and she's proud of it. When she was a child, Ortiz and her brother didn't want to just watch animated cartoons on TV. They played out the roles in their own voices after the shows were over. It got to a point that Ortiz would answer her mother in cartoon voices instead of her own. Look where all of that took her. 2 roles in Pokemon, the voice of Lena Inverse and Deedlit. But after hearing her voice on tape for the first time, Ortiz thought, oh my god, no wonder my mother was going crazy. Ortiz speaks in both Spanish and English, and best known for her dialect voices. Is being bilingual an advantage of being able to create accented voices? It doesn't hurt, she said, but the big factor was growing up in New York City, where dozens of languages are spoken. I have an ear for it and hang out with people who speak other languages, she said. I take it for granted. When an anime dub is produced, you have to be faithful to the idea and the spirit of the original. That doesn't mean you can use a word-for-word translation of a Japanese script. For one thing, that doesn't fit in with the brief time a character is speaking on screen, Ortiz noted. Also, humor doesn't always translate, and English puns have to be useful. She said that explains why some of the characters in Record of Lodoss War were speaking like they came from Brooklyn. Is Lisa really Lena or Deedlit? Well, part of her is like the Hei's elf from Lodoss, but more like her is like her sailor spellcaster. Ortiz admits she acts like Lena from time to time, and Lena's spells would come in handy on the New York subway. Alright, in the chat we have Azure. Hey, great seeing you here. Okay, Jeff Thompson told you what you won't see from the right stuff. Okay, what won't we see from the right stuff? The right stuff got its start with the release of the old Astro Boy TV series, and the Iowa company got a lot of attention when they announced the release of Kimba the White Lion. The Americanized version of Jungle Emperor was produced with NBC support by Osamu Tezuka in the 1960s. However, Kimba might have been in the rights of hands years earlier, said producer Jeff Thompson, if they had been certain who had the rights to the show. The collapse of Tezuka's Mushi Productions left a lot of doubt over the ownership of his shows, and it wasn't until recently that the questions were cleared up. Thompson likes the Kerry Kana's show so much that he talked the Right Stuff's executives into picking up the program for the US video release. However, there are other shows he likes that probably won't get to the US, he feels, because they're too much for an American audience. Take Dr. Slump, the series about a scientist and his offbeat android daughter. Thompson thinks it's hilarious, but it contains a collection of scatological jokes that go beyond anything in South Park or the Ping Pong Club. Then there was a series with a lot of pretty young men who really liked each other a lot. To the point where that one of Jepson Thompson's friends said, it's best if you think of them as women. Well then. Yes, Azure, I highly recommend ASIN. It's one of my favorite conventions. I want to go back so bad. Thompson still has a soft spot for older series, even if they aren't smoothly animated. He admits that the mid-70s anime didn't use many excels to give an illusion of movement, but he preferred the storylines of the shows to much of the material now being released. Thompson is rooting for success for Anime Ego and the release of the original Macross series, hoping that will create a demand for the release of more series from that era. Fantasy has become a reality for Ryo Mizuno. It's most often associated with sword and sorcery genre, but the most modern role-playing game can cover a lot of ground, with the most important territory being inside that of the game player's imagination. Ryo Mizuno discovered that when he started translating English language games in an effort to introduce them to the Japanese market. As RPGs became popular in Japan, they moved into manga and anime world, especially Mizuno's masterpiece, Record of Lodoss Wars. Lodoss grew from a story idea that Mizuno had in high school. As his RPG success grew, Mizuno decided to make a Lodoss game, book, and film. I had to create another world based on this story, he said. In games, you can become the main character and become involved in another world, but that's what intrigued me about games. I also wanted to teach the world in my head to other people. the best way to do that was role-playing games. Mizuno likes the game system he devised for Lotos, where numbers describe a character's tendencies and skills. By looking at the number, you can see how difficult your goal is to be achieved. Gamers are confounded by those who don't understand the appeal of RPGs. Many people in Japan and in the US think that the gamers envelop themselves in a fantasy world and ignore real life. Mizuno says that games can bring out the best and worst in people, and they shouldn't be censored. I don't think by restricting movies and games it would eliminate crime in youth, he said. All right, let's go on to Saturday. Okay, what is going on Saturday? All right, there was a big group of costumers before noon on Saturday. All right, let's take a look. Okay, we had Shamanic Princess. I remember that anime. I tried getting into it, but I just couldn't. Amelia from Slayers. I love that Chongseng, that Kipao though. Sakura. I want to say that's Vampire Hunter D. We've got Eris over there. Yeah, Moonlight Knight and the Outer Senshi. Just scrolling along here. Oh, I actually know this Asuka cosplayer. It's a friend of mine that who now teaches at a university right now. She teaches in communications. We have Movie Jury. I believe that is Lisa Ortiz with a pen, I think. Someone please correct me on that. We have Harlock. Is that the same Tama from Animazement? And again, we do have our Ko-Fi. Our Ko-Fi link just popped up into chat. If you have a moment or $1 to spare, definitely donate to our Ko-Fi. Anime Expo's coming up, and we could use some of that sweet Ko-Fi money to pay for parking, because damn, parking in LA is hella expensive. Oh, no photos. Like, any amount would be very much appreciated. Okay, just scrolling through here. I do love that Priestess Yui. Then again, I have a bias because I do love me Fushigi Yuki. Okay, nothing here. Oh, sad. Okay, looks like we've lost some photos on the last couple of pages. But Megan Hollingshead is the real Nurse Joy. This woman was known excuse me. This woman was one of the most popular people at Anime Central. No one wanted to know about her life as an opera administrator, but when they looked at her Guest of Honor badge, fans were overwhelmed and peppered her with questions. Megan Hollingshead is the voice of Nurse Joy in Pokemon. The brown-haired nurse with her hair in loops. The character who treats injured Pokemon is one of the most beloved of the Pokemon characters, even though she doesn't appear in every episode. I came here wondering if people would know Nurse Joy, Hollingshead said. It was totally opposite. People have been so warm that I'm spoiled. It's a little overwhelming. There's a part of me that says, you don't deserve this, but it's a great trip. Hollingshead has been trying to build a theatrical career and decided to take a chance with her when her friend told her about the auditions for the Pokemon voice cast. I went to the audition and they asked, what cartoon voices do you have? I answered, what do you need? After auditioning for all the Pokemon roles, including Ash, Hollingshead got the Nurse Joy role. It took some work with Michael Heine, the lead voice director in Pokemon's early episodes, to get Nurse Joy's voice just right. It had to sound young and sweet, but not too much so, and not a flat monotone. Pokemon fans are fascinated to learn why are there so many Nurse Joys scattered around the Pocket Monsters world. According to Hollingshead, we're cousins and we're spread out. We committed to taking care of Pokemon all over the world. It's a matter of divide and conquer. Hollingshead's voice will become familiar to Sony PlayStation fans in months to come. She appears as a lead character in the English language version of the Valkyrie profile game from Enix, which was mentioned by this page during the SakuraCon reports. With Nurse Joy's popularity, Hollingshead hopes that the role will lead into greater things in the future. More costumers were found in the afternoon. I'm glad they were found. because they may have been lost. Scrolling through. Okay. There's Renoa. Again, really gotta respect all the Final Fantasy VIII cosplays back in the day. Oh, Kevin really likes taking photos of the Uranus and Neptune. Sorry, the Uranus and Saturn here. Gotta love all that shiny fabric from back in the day and holding all the free swag bags that we got at registration, showing company logos. We have Child's Toy. I do love me some Child's Toy. Aw, Doremi! Doremi was like one of those feel-good anime that I was watching back in early university. Okay, we have Standard Sakura. Alright. Along with people with advice on how to make costumes. People love costumers at anime conventions. They draw the most attention in the halls and on the site. And all those elaborate costumes need long work to be ready for public display. A group of veteran costumers gather behind the costume rack to talk about their work. Contrary to what you might expect, one member of this costuming panel was a woman, Prairie Rose Clayton. It's much easier to create a costume on your own than to modify an existing pattern, she said. Kimonos are easy costumes to make because they're just created from straight pieces of cloth, but they're hard to wrap just right. A couple of guys on the panel are Michigan fans. Dave B. told how he had screwed together some parts of his costume, and he does his own sewing, every stitch by hand. Being able to work on a sewing machine isn't everything, he said. It's how does it look as opposed to how much time it took to make. Hey, ancient JoJo cosplays. And David Z told some of the tricks of trade, like using pieces of large plastic pipe to make shoulder pads. Also be careful about using paint and hot glue in a costume because the glue won't stick to paint. Making a costume work means you have to have it planned out in your mind, but you won't know until it'll work until you're done. Tsukasa Kotobuki spoke of new projects and cosplays so blands. Tsukasa Kotobuki is moving beyond his popular character designs for the Saber Marionette series and starting new projects with more than a bit of pressure involved. One of those projects is a major multimedia deal for the Kadokawa Publishing House, which is hope will be that the company's answer to shows such as Record Lotus Wars. The president of Kadokawa is determined to make this successful, said Kotobuki, in showing the pressure he'll face on this project. The other is a new Odeon anime, which is scheduled to air this spring on Japanese TV. Kotobuki handled the mecha and character designs for the show. Even with those forthcoming projects, Kotobuki spends much of his time creating doujinshi. I spent half my life immersed in doujinshi. It was something I do with my friends to enjoy myself. Of course, Kotobuki's friends include Kenichi Sonata, one of the leading manga and doujinshi artists. Still, Kotobuki noted that there was a Kadokawa editor with him at Anime Central asking him when he'd get back to work. Much doujinshi is erotic, and that's a part of the complex world of Japanese sexuality. Kotobuki said there's much less of a stigma against erotic manga and doujinshi in Japan than there is in the US, where erotic comics fight a constant censorship battle. Sexy comics are all but underground in the US, but in Japan they're a major part of the manga market and comic market. How complex is that Japanese sexuality? The argument in Japan is that there are more people who are less interested sexually in real people and more interested in fictional characters, he said. Kotobuki didn't mean movie stars when he said fictional characters. He meant manga and anime characters. He mentioned that there are costume massage parlors in Japan featuring women dressed like the most popular female characters who provide services that the artist never publicly imagined and whose use of the costumes is not licensed by anyone in the manga and anime industry. Yes, there are Kotobuki characters at the massage parlors, he said, noting for which he never gave his permission, of course. Chio Saito explained manga storytelling. Alright, one of my favorite manga artists. Revolution Girl Utena is a crowning achievement for the manga artist Chio Saito, but it's only one of her works. Let's not her most recent one. When Utena was finished, Saito started a new series, Lady Masquerade. That meant a new round of hard work required to beat deadlines and keep a manga series interesting. It's harder for manga artists because most of them write and draw their stories. While American comics have had several writers and artists. How does Saito overcome a case of writer's block? I take a hot bath and try to relax. It was easier for Saito to learn how to draw than write a convincing story. Writing manga is extra difficult, and at first I didn't know what to do. It took me a while to learn, she said. The problem comes in making the story fit in the pages and allotted to the artist by each publication and each episode. Although successful, manga can go for thousands of pages. Individual stories are much shorter because they have to share a manga issue with other stories. But after 18 pages, you get used to it. The art came more naturally to Saito, who is a self-taught artist, something shared by many female manga artists. When I create manga, I want the images to be like they're moving, said Saito, and the glowing, dreaming look is deliberate. I try to draw softness to it. Shoujo manga has a sense of openness. It's not realistic. I try to draw so you can feel the sunlight and the wind blowing. Think about drawing manga as a task and more like producing a movie than any other art form, said Saito. A film has a director, cinematographer, and art directors and costumers. Dozens of people create a film. Manga artists have to do the same thing on paper and pretty much themselves, although most major artists have assistants help them produce their pages. The people who make dubs got together to talk about their jobs. If you get the impression that there are a lot of material from Anime Central on the dubbing of anime, it's because there's a lot to talk about that subject at this event. 3 people from the industry got together to talk about the real world of dubbing production on Saturday afternoon. They were Michael Albin, who directed dubs for Central Park Media, Crispin Freeman, actor and former script rewriter for the Pokemon series, and producer Toshifumi Yoshida of Viz Video. Jeff Thompson of The Right Stuff was also part of the discussion. Freeman said Pokemon script adaptations were difficult because the show is broadcast, not direct to video, and thus comes under tight controls on children's programming imposed by the television industry and Federal Communications Commission. There are committees and overcommittees who had to approve this. He said about the process of getting a Pokemon script approved for broadcast. One of the sexier examples came in the original Japanese. A boy in an episode sees Misty and says, "Can I breastfeed?" And he looked at the guys and said, "What do we do here?" No surprise that the line was changed to something palpable for the censors. Anime fans love to complain about the voice acting in dubs, but Albin said they should complain about the voice direction instead. Allowing bad voice acting to reside on a dub is the fault of the director. I don't care if I have to go to 50 takes of an actor. If it's not right, then it doesn't go on the dub. I'll get another actor before I let go on the dub. Albin's choice of actors must be good. He cast Freeman in a role in the dub of the record Lotus Wars for Central Park Media. Those who complain that Japanese cultural references are softened or removed from Japanese dubs should speak to Yoshida, who closely understands both Japanese and American culture and knows what works in script for English language. If it has Japanese jokes that would make no sense in English, we have to change that. Yoshida said among the changes in Ranma 1/2 episode, reference to no plays were switched to quotations from Shakespeare because the typical audience wouldn't be familiar with the Japanese dramas. Yoshida also had his own Pokemon censorship stories. He noted that Viz had to change the widely Pokemon comics to remove bikinis on female characters and reduce their bust sizes. Those that sell dubs and subs talked about the state of the business. Another series and another banner for Jerry Chu of Bandai's North American Video and Model Kit Arm. This time, it's one of the company's newest titles, the Jubei-chan series, about a schoolgirl who becomes the embodiment of an ancient hero when she dons a special eye patch, even though she is not interested in the job. That series moves to U.S. home video in August, Chu said. However, he didn't have much to say about the magazine's story that claimed the Blue Submarine No. 6 series would be cablecast on Cartoon Network later in 2000. Chu said that if Bandai series get to cable or on broadcast TV, don't expect them to be treated as anime. Don't say that this is a Japanese program and promote it as a Japanese program. It's just another cartoon, he noted. Bandai is thrilled with the success of Gundam Wing on Cartoon Network, Chu said, in its ratings and its impact on sales of the company's mecha model kits. He said the company sold all of its first shipments of kits and modeling fans are going to wait until July for a fresh shipment. A little later in the same room, ADV Films sat behind a table in the person of Dave Williams and Matt Greenfield. The Texas pair told that fans it's tough to get their titles onto store shelves, and they really have to cater to corporate buyers as much as anime fans. Retailers don't think like normal people. If a video has really great art, they'll put it in, Greenfield said. The release patterns of anime series are adjusted to please the retailers as well, with ADV starting slowly with opening episodes. The buyers don't like the series with more than 6 episodes because they feel sales drop off after 6 episodes, said Greenfield. Also, the practice of releasing a series videos not by the episode number but with a new title is a move to keep retailers happy since the stories think they're getting the new series instead of an installment in a series. Greenfield said that's the reason the later episodes of Sorcerer Hunters got the Spell Wars tag. Anime Central presented a huge costume contest. Alright, let's just take a look at the cosplay contest here. Oh, hey, that's too hard. I recognize that. Oh, we have Godzilla. Okay, again, a lot of Final Fantasy VIII. We got Utena. Still need to like rework my Utena cosplay. Who knows? I might just do standard uniform Utena at Anime Expo this year. We'll see. I love that facial expression on that Kenshin over there. Saber Marionette. We have Duo. We have Dan Hibiki. We have Asuka, Miyaka, Mononoke, Van. Looks like right above there we have Erd from Oh My Goddess. Oh, we have a tiny Garo. I love that. Oh, we have El Hazard. I love that. We have Lupin the Third. We have Deedlit. I'm really liking the variety of fandoms present at this cosplay contest. I want to say that's a Shy Guy without the mask. A lot of Saber Marionette. I love that. Because like back in the day, the guest of honor would be announced early on that you would have the year to prepare to make cosplays surrounding the guest of honor who's going to be there. So that explains like when you see like conventions that, for example, have Yuatase as a guest, you'll see a lot of Fushigi Yugi cosplayers. Just like this Miyaka right here. Of course, because it's Chicago, you have a lot of folks representing Bean Bandit, Rally Vincent, Gunsmith Cats. I really need to read the manga again. And then you have this con, which has Ikuhara and Chio Saito. You have a lot of Utena cosplayers coming out. And I'm just really liking the variety of just seeing like all the different types of characters here. Let's see, OAC, obscure anime character. Is that supposed to be Patty Rabbit? Okay, we have, I want to say that's from Valley of the Wind, maybe? It's been a while since I've seen that movie. Ooh, Sparkle. I do appreciate some Sparkle. Oh, that's an awesome Jigglypuff. I love it. Yeah, Mio and Larva. Clearly, it looks like Kevin was like taking video and just taking screenshots of the performance and just trying to get the best facial expressions where he can. You have the Goddess Trio over there. We have Vash, Anna, Robbie on Rose. All right. Let's take a look at who won the cosplay contest. The fans got what they wanted when the costume contest winners were announced. We got Godzilla for Best of Show. Best Presentation. Looks like it went to Magic Knight Rayearth here. And then Best Group went to Fushigi Yugi. Best Staff Member went to Lime. Honorable Mention went to Jigglypuff. Honorable Mention went to this random display of magical girl characters. Lisa Ortiz's award went to Slayers. Kristen Freeman's award went to Bug Thing. I'm assuming it's from Valley of the Wind. Oh, hey, Steve Bennett's award went to a character from Sorcerer Hunters. Ryan Gavigan award, again, this is the con chair, went to this duo right here. Not sure what they're from. But if he's listening in and he wants to comment, he can comment right away. Rob DeHace's award, I want to say he awarded this Metal Gear cosplayer here. Scott Ryder's award went to the Shy Person. Or Shy Guy. Not quite sure what they're supposed to be. Maybe Inuyasha? Because the Inuyasha manga was out at the time. Maybe not the anime, but definitely the manga. There's still more pictures of costumers to show. Okay, we have Vash. We have Bunny Maid. I want to assume this is Patty Rabbit, but maybe I'm wrong. Okay, we have Dios. We have Noriko Miyaka. We have a goddess trio right here. One of them carrying an ancient artifact, like those old school cameras. We also have a Ryoga right here, also with an old school old school camcorder. Actually, today when I was at, earlier today, I actually did someone with a disposable camera. I'm like, wait, what year is it? I need to do a double take. Got someone from Digimon, I assume. We have a character from Angel Sanctuary. I'm not even going to touch that one. Okay, we got Miki from Utena. Vash from Trigon Maximum, because he has that X in the middle. Kevin. And then we have Lime from Saber Marionette, one of our award winners from Masquerade. Alright, here's a side of Jessica Calvello you've never seen before. Jessica Calvello had never been to an anime convention before Project Acon in 1999. Now she's the voice of Mink, Cutie Honey, Princess Minerva, and Yuri from The Dirty Pair. Is planning to get as many conventions as she can attend. She loves attention and she gets from the fans. These conventions are great for my ego, she said, and actors constantly beat up. It's hard to get to work when don't get paid much. When you get to go where you're appreciated, it's beyond a treat. Calvello has done a lot of anime dub roles, but she's still one of the thousands of actors who need to have other jobs to make ends meet. Working at trade shows, handing out samples, making coffee for mean lawyers, helping as a caterer, temporary office work, all of that is part of Calvello's life between acting jobs. There are so many people in this business and the chances of making it are not good. We need other jobs, said Calvello. A lot of my friends will work graveyard shifts. There's a joke. You're an actor. Where do you wait tables? Calvello has a long list of acting projects in the works. She's voicing an online animated series called Battle Seed and done a voice on Pokemon, and is working on 3 children's theater shows and sings in a forthcoming soundtrack for a musical about Princess Diana, and is working on another musical based on the works of Tennessee Williams. In the meantime, Calvello has done a small stuff like working as an extra in a film subway scene that needed people to walk up and down the stairs. And there's her continuing dream to one day play Fanny Bryce in Funny Girl. While Calvello's first love is acting, her second love is teaching elementary school classes, something she did in Houston before she moved to New York City. I'm really comfortable in elementary level kids. It's like being in a recording session. I can be having a bad day, go to a recording session, and I feel great. It's the same when I teach. Kristen Freeman's approach to acting goes deeper than dubs. Tristan Freeman doesn't want to spend his entire acting career in a recording booth. He just finished acting in a play at the Alley Theater in Houston and won the role of Demetrius in a Connecticut production of Night's Dream by Shakespeare. Freeman wants to stay active on stage, but he's interested in more anime roles. Freeman says online anime fandom is responsible for helping him develop his roles. Producers don't always have a lot of background information on the complete storylines of the shows he dubs. So Freeman makes an internet connection and checks fan sites on the World Wide Web for information on those shows. The background information in hand, Freeman is ready to start working out the interpretation of the role he will play. I will do my best to get online with the fans. Freeman enjoys beyond the obvious from cultural background in anime. He sees an Asian attitude of ambivalence between good and evil, tempered with the Western noting that you are either all good or all bad. There's this notion in Asia that there has to be a balance, said Freeman. Maybe it's not cut and dried like we have to acknowledge in our shadow side. It's a major problem in Western culture whether you have a devil to fight. If there are no more enemies, you start to eat at yourself. Often, anime fans will hear changes in dub shows from subtitled versions and claim the changes violate the artistic integrity of the original. Freeman was a part of one dub where unusual changes were made and the creator liked them. That was Record of Lotus Wars, where director Michael Albin added some New York City jokes and puns to the script. According to Freeman, Lotus creator Ryo Mizuno approved of those changes, saying that they were funnier than the puns he had put in the Japanese original. Cho Saito spoke about costumes and creativity. Walk through the halls of anime conventions, and you can see that there are many fans who make costumes based on the characters from Revolution Girl Utena. Cho Saito designed those uniforms and drew the manga versions of the series, and had 2 opportunities to see fans in Utena costumes at US anime conventions. She likes what she sees. I was pleased to see how many characters were being received, said Saito. When I see an exceptionally beautiful costume, I have my picture taken with them. Saito designed those costumes on the directions of Utena's director Kunihiko Ikuhara, who wanted the uniforms to be with simple lines which would be easy to animate and show beauty in each line. She drew upon the 18th century and 19th century French military uniforms as their inspiration for the look of the Utena characters. I would like to dress like this, but I don't think it would fit me. Your legs have to be really beautiful to wear this. If you're confused by the complexities of the Utena universe, most of which has not been seen in North America, Saito knows how you feel. There were some metaphors in the TV series that I didn't understand. When I saw the movie, I understood them. The directors were using a lot of imagination. Saito noted that there were many layers of development in making the Utena story. Saito was a large part of the Utena production, but was a team effort of producers and directors which took months of pre-production and scripting before the first cell was painted. By contrast, Saito is used to the nearly solitary work of manga artists, punctuated by the unyielding deadlines. With the Utena series completed, Saito has gone back to manga drawing, taking her story ideas from movies from the lives of their friends. Here's the last look at Anime Central's costumers. Oh, we only have 3 pages. So sad. Okay, we have Umi. This is really giving Suzaku no Miko vibes. We have Gori and Lina. We have Zelos. Okay, we have Amelia. And we also have Gori. Really liking the Slayer's love. We have Fu. Scrolling down. We have Fushigi Yugi. We have one of the Fushigi Yugi twins. We have Subaru from X. Alright, let's go through Kevin Lillard's last thoughts on Anime Central. There's a bittersweet taste to the author's notes from this event. Oh yeah, check out this old school digital camera right here, by the way. For just a moment, the author paused while rushing from one room to another at Anime Central and thought, this is getting to be almost like work. Then he picked up the pace and kept going down the hall. This was an enjoyable, busy event. Usually there are quiet spots in the middle of the day where the author has a chance to retreat to his room and assemble parts of the page. But that didn't happen this time, with interesting events on every hour of every day. So there are a lot of panels uncovered and costumers not photographed in a rush to get as much possible on the page. Some people say the author can be at two places at the same time. That would have come in handy this time. After a late start to the opening ceremonies, the event ran smoothly. If you want to get an idea of how many people showed up, consider this. The hotel is roughly 1 block long. On Saturday night, the audience line for the cosplay stretched that entire block, from the ballroom entrance to the hotel lobby, twisting and turning several halls. The guests of honor enjoy that kind of devotion from fans. Even one case where we heard that the fan beat one guest in the video game and got a rare sketch as a reward. For the second year in a row, the weather got in the way of the convention, even through the storms were on the day before the event. The bad weather hit Chicagoland on Thursday, and those who tried to get to the convention one day early had to wait several hours until the weather cleared O'Hare Airport. The weather and equipment trouble made for a miserable Friday afternoon. We were told that most of the Sheraton Arlington's Park air conditioning units failed. The remaining unit didn't have the capacity to cool the building. It was uncomfortably warm on Friday, but a cold front blew through Friday night and kept the rest of the weekend comfortable. The Sheraton, a Hilton that was reflagged a few months earlier, had an odd layout. Yeah, it did. The rooms were in a curved tower that looked from inside a little like the old Star Trek hallway sets in 1967. There were two lower level areas of meeting rooms, but they weren't connected. Even odder, the two dealers' rooms, one on the main level and another in the downstairs room below with the main events hall. You had to know exactly where you were going in a maze-like building. Anime Central drew a big crowd from the Midwest. There was a large delegation of fans from Michigan, people from Ohio. One person came all the way from Seattle, near the home of SoccerCon the previous month, and two traveled from Toronto. The worn-out author was just able to bang out the few final words of this report before hunting for a phone jack and a soft spot to lay down. There was a bed in the hotel lobby, of all things. It was a fun experience, a reunion for some, and a new adventure for others. On Friday, after a busy day, first day of Anime Central, so busy that the author was very late in posting pictures and stories, the author made an internet connection to find out what he missed since 3 a.m. First came the email message that brought the news that Roger O'Connor, the guiding voice behind the anime radio online show, had been killed in a car crash. Anime radio was not a conventional show, but was always lively and managed to mix information with its humor. As if the news of O'Connor's death wasn't sad enough, there was a cruel irony that he was killed on the way to tape an anime radio show. Then a check of the Speed Vision website showed a simple, stunning phrase: Adam Petty, 1980 to 2000. The youngest member of the famed four-generation stock car racing family had been killed Friday in a practice crash at the New Hampshire International Speedway. In previous years, the author had met Petty's father, Kyle, and grandfather, Richard. Sadder still was Lee Petty. Adam's great-grandfather had died a few weeks earlier. Those deaths brought more into focus from the previous week's trial in Houston of the man accused of several deaths from Texas to Illinois. One of the victims of the man who had been called the railroad drifter was a school teacher, murdered on the day before Project Acon in 1999. The teacher was an anime fan and an amateur artist who loved the convention and had planned for months to attend the event. Look at these stories, and you can't overemphasize the point anime conventions are a welcome and wonderful escape from the pain of the real world. The point was even made clear 5 months after Anime Central when Michael Albin, the voice acting director who made his first anime convention appearance at the Chicagoland event, died while on his way to work in New York. Albin had been set to direct the His and Her Circumstances dub for The Right Stuff. And with that said, this has been another edition of Fansview Fridays. Thank you so much for tuning in, whether you're tuning in into our live stream here on Twitch, or you're attending and checking out our video on demand here on YouTube. If you attended Anime Central 2000, I'd like to know your thoughts. If you have any stories, if you found yourself in the photos, do tell me more about what Anime Central 2000 was like for you. And with that said, I just want to just give some promotion and some love to my book, The Fangirl Diaries. This is available at Barnes & Noble's, Amazon, bookshop.org if you are down to support indie bookstores. And with that said, I hope you guys enjoy my book, The Fangirl Diaries. This is all about this particular era of anime conventions, anime fandom, and it's right in between that sweet spot for anime was becoming a niche when it was transitioning from a niche Gen X hobby to something that all ages can enjoy by way of Pokemon, Dragon Ball, Sailor Moon, and Toonami. So definitely check out my book. I hope you can enjoy it. And if you ever see me at a convention, I'm more than happy to sign a copy of your book of the Fansview Diaries. And with that said, again, thank you so much for tuning in. Glad to have you here. If you like what we do, definitely hit that like button. If you really like what we do, support us on Ko-Fi and consider yourself being a subscriber. Again, thank you so much for your time, and have a nice rest of your evening, and thank you for stopping by the Wisteria Cottage.